Welcome to Learning from Men podcast. I want to learn from men so I can better serve men. Today, we're learning from Daniel Haynes. Daniel is a husband, father, entrepreneur living in the Oklahoma City metro area. This segment of Learning from Men is sponsored by Men of Jesus. For over 23 years, Men of Jesus has had this vision, has championed the vision, better men, better families, and better communities. If you are a man seeking to walk out your faith and lead with purpose, MOJ offers some powerful ways to do that: newsletter, roundtable, coaching and mentorship, and workshops. So check out mojesus.org to learn more about that. Another sponsor for today is 5+2 After School Leadership Program, a ministry committed to raising up young men, strong young men, after school program. The program provides mentorship, biblical foundation, leadership, and entrepreneurship, and a bigger vision. We want to inspire young men to live out their faith in the schools and in their communities. And so thank you for those sponsorships. Daniel, we're going to jump right in this, man. I just want to see if I can learn something from all the wisdom you have. And this is just a conversation, right? We just want to I just want to throw out some questions and just see what we come up with. Man, tell us a little bit about your family dynamics right now, though. Husband, children.
Yeah, absolutely. Wife and I, we've been married, Raven. I call her Fancy. So actually, a lot of people that know us through social media or see us a lot on social media actually think Fancy is her real name. But yeah, we
I love
celebrated
it.
8 years this year. Next May it'll be 9, and we have two boys. Zion, he's 4 years old, first year in school this year, and Zaire wants to do everything Big Brother does. He turns 2 later on in December this year. So we're excited. Two knuckleheads, love them to death, love seeing them grow. Love seeing them grow together, which is wild, just see two kids just do life together day in and day out. It's
Yeah,
pretty special. So it's definitely a joy being a husband and a dad to those two boys right there for sure.
that's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
what is something now that you are a father? Is there something that you wish you would have been taught now that you're raising boys? Is there something that you wish you would have been taught as a man when you were younger?
Yeah, I will say, man, that's a good question. Because my dad, he was a pastor and spent a lot of time with my dad. My parents, they were divorced when I was growing up, so I actually lived with my dad in high school. And I was a boy too as well growing up. So it's like a lot of like the stages that they're at in life right now. I kind of see myself, in them. So, but I'll say. I wish I was taught, like, especially, like, with kids. I guess I would imagine it'd be the across the board with kids, just to be patient. I'm learning how to be patient, and every response doesn't have to be, discipline first. So that's one of the parenting that I'm learning right now this season, is to be more patient, with the kids and really just kinda journey with them just to, as they're learning and growing. Because especially with my oldest, like, every new day, that he has is also the first, day for me too as well. It's like we're experiencing, our first together, me as a parent and him as a kid, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm learning in this season, man, to be more patient. Just wasn't on my radar because my dad, although he was a pastor, he didn't spread a ride.
he held on to that verse, huh?
Yeah, he did. He did. So naturally for me, because that's just what I experienced, growing up too as well. Um, More so, okay, man, I could be more patient here or things like that. And I'm learning that, man, when I am patient, I'm starting to see more results too as well. Or he's starting to share more without me asking and things like that too as well. So it's more so there's other tools as well outside. All right, man, go get Mr. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
What have you had a chance to go back and talk to your dad about that? Like, hey, Dad, do you think you could have been more patient? Like, what, what are some things that you would have done differently as a dad? Have you ever took time to ask your dad that?
I haven't asked him that specifically, but it's crazy because, like, growing up now, I see like in this parenting journey, I'm understanding a lot of things that my dad did and like the why behind it. Kind of have just like, oh, that's why he did that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and we started to have those conversations and things like that. And so I haven't asked him that specific question. I will definitely love to, but it just crazy even just how the relationship with my dad has changed and like even gotten deeper since I had kids, especially boys. So that wasn't on my radar at all. And sometimes like, man, dad, this is what's going on. And sometimes he just laugh. I'm like, he'd be like, you just do the same thing.
right.
So we haven't talked about that specific question, but there is like just a ton of just life things, not even just parenting things that, now that I'm a dad, especially to boys too as well, that we're kind of sharing that relationship together in a deeper level that we haven't, before I had kids.
Yeah, that's definitely a great bonding opportunity between a young man and his dad once you start having children to be able to come back and kind of reflect on how they raised. But oftentimes, I think you will learn like men would be like, "I wish I could have done something different." It's
Mhm.
not to say that you're a bad father, right? It's just like, man, I wish I
Yeah.
could have done this differently. I think about those things now that my sons are both grown men. I'm like, man, I wish I could have done X, Y, and Z differently. But
Yeah, yeah, and I think with my dad, because I was the youngest of 3 boys, and I have a younger sister, so my oldest brother, he definitely got the majority of the punishment and things like that, and I was about 8 years younger than him, so I saw a lot of stuff like, "No, I ain't gonna do that."
yeah, yeah,
So I think, even with my dad, taking my dad credit, he kinda changed his parenting style a little bit the older that I got, as well. So he didn't necessarily parent me, just one way. Like, that he don't respond to that, and just things like that.
yeah,
So, but also even just talking to my family and things like that, and me having just experiences with my grandfather, my dad's dad. I could see why my dad had, a lot of my grandfather in him, too as well, and even just the nature of society, during my grandpa's, era and my dad's and growing up. And we all grew up in a small town as well, where everybody family and everybody were extension of parents. And you can just call everybody auntie and uncle and cousin for the most part, So it's crazy because the older I get, just the more I'm understanding that dynamic and how culture shapes parenting styles and things like that too as well, and how their parents shape their parenting styles and things like that too as
yeah,
well. But also, my dad grew up in a time where it wasn't internet, it wasn't podcasts like these, right? Where you had all these resources that you can kind of grow and develop and things like that too as well. And I was telling him that thank you for how you raised me. 'Cause I feel like I turned out okay and turning out okay.
yeah,
I ain't got it all figured out yet.
yeah.
It's a lot of stuff, that I'm growing in. So definitely, give both my mom and dad, credit to that for just, the parents that they were to me for sure.
Is there something that I don't know if this question is any different, but I think it is. Is there anything you wish somebody would have told you,
As far as parenting, man, I would
or just no,
say,
just being
yeah,
or just being a man? Like, is there
yeah,
something that you wish somebody would have told you about being a man?
yeah, I would say early on, it was a struggle of mine because it wasn't on my radar then. I would say early on to really lean into other men, with vulnerability. It took me years to figure that out. It took me years to find the value in that. And what I found is when I did, I'm like, I'm not alone in this. It's like, even just sharing things or struggles or dreams or goals and things like that, just the encouragement that comes behind it when sharing with other men and things like that. That wasn't on my radar because I'm naturally an introvert, always have been. So if I would have figured that out a lot sooner, I would have saved myself a lot of stress, a lot of heartache. But also I feel like, growth would have happened sooner in a lot of different areas by just really leaning into to men, sharing with men, doing life with men. So I definitely say that's been huge once I got there, and I didn't get there till just a few years ago, where I'm like,
Yeah,
and just really seeing the value on that versus, man, if I could have figured that out in high school, going into college, and just things
right.
like that, I'm like, man, I just can't imagine like who I'll be today with that early of a start on. Man, let me just do life with great men and really, share where I'm not in life alone because, life can be hard, and things like that. And it gets only feels harder when you feel like you in it alone, So, and I've spent a lot of years in college, right after college is really just going through things alone and not wanting to share, not knowing how to share, and things like that. So,
Yeah, what are some things that you some habits or some routines, traits that you've learned from other men now that you have been a little bit more intentional with that?
man, check-ins. There's a group of guys that we have. We're on our little text thread, and one of the things that we do is, we ask, okay, how we're doing spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and things like that. And pretty much anything that's under a five, you got to explain it, And typically, you just kind of share. We share, and just kind of, allow others to speak into those things with and may have different perspectives on certain things and things like that. So I think just the practice of intentional check-ins with other men, that's definitely it's critical to I would say just my overall well-being, of just being a human, today, not just a man, but because those conversations, it kind of touches from finance to marriage to parenting to work to working out, and all those guys, they all go to therapy, and things like that too. So it's a group of like-minded people that we just, which there for each other, there to share and also hold each other accountable to goals and struggles and things like that, but also to journey with one another, through life. So that's definitely, I would say, something that I do currently too as well. But also, I absolutely love journaling. Love it, love it. Give me some worship music or some classical music, and just kind of get my thoughts out on paper, or just if it's a dream, because I'm a huge processor. So if I don't get it out my brain, it's just gonna stay there. Things like that. So I'm big on journaling and things like that. So I'll say definitely just doing life and sharing, being transparent with other men and journaling. Those are probably the top two things, logistically, tangibly that I'm doing now.
You said a check in below a five is
Mhm.
and then you got to explain it. Is that is that wanting people to explain the men you want them to explain that because you want to try to help them through it, or is that just part of the process of understanding, letting somebody get something out so they can be heard?
It's both, ultimately the group is like we do life together. Like, hey man, you're not in this alone. So whatever you're struggling with, we want to know and we care, and things like that. And when we first started, like it was a little awkward because like I mean they just wasn't the culture of it. Now just oh yeah, let's boom boom boom. Here's what's going on. Here's where I'm at and things like that too as well. So yeah, so definitely pretty much anything below five, it's a scale of 1 to 10. Pretty much it just allows others in the group to speak into it, but also gives someone like Megan, I'm not doing too good here. Here's what's going on, and it helps them just getting it out,
Yeah, yeah.
where they just don't have to just internalize it. And I think that's just so natural for men to internalize, everything because society is like, man, nah, you don't cry, you suck it up. People counting on you. You go out and work, like you don't have emotions. It's your job to work and provide. You don't get nothing else. Just things like that. So these are a lot of the world views on manhood and things like that. But, so like I said, when we first started, it was like a little unnatural. And now it's like, oh man, here's what's up. And
Yeah, just like,
sometimes it's
here, take
based,
it.
yeah, and here and also it's crazy because sometimes it don't even, things come up where it don't even, get to the check-in point because just due to the relationship. Like, man, here's where I'm at today, just things like that. I need some encouragement, so yeah.
What are some common things, since people don't know the people in your group or anything, and this may be general, just in your relationship with other men, what are some of the more common things that you feel like men have challenges with?
I would definitely say the balance of being just who they are as men, not being a husband, not being a father, not being a employee or business owner, but just being, because I think there was just so much weight put on being a husband, being a dad, showing up for work, and things like that, where there isn't, a lot of spaces where they can just be, where they're not doing or being something for someone else, so that seems to be the I would say a very common theme amongst the group for sure.
So are you saying, I wrote it down as it's hard just being a man without the other roles, and
Mhm.
sometimes just wanting just to be the man without the roles. Uh,
Mhm.
but I may bring it to you like I'm just having a challenge with my extra roles outside of just being a man.
Yeah, 100% because because obviously being a husband, it has its own challenges, and
Right.
being a dad has its own challenges. I mean, sometimes, a day, like for example, a day like, man, I had a hard day at work. I gotta go home. Not have to go home, but I go home. There's two boys. Counting on me. They want time as well. They don't know anything how the day went, right? And the boys they want time. Wife she wants time. So,
Yeah.
but also it's like kids want book read to them at night. So it's also just the emotional, as well as just the physical toll of just being present. Even to everybody that you care about, where there just isn't it seems like, have to be more intentional on like, you know what, here's why I'm gonna take a time to just breathe a little bit, where not that I don't want to be a dad or don't want to be a husband, but also just need to be Daniel sometimes, and that's kind of very similar to those other guys where they're just doing so much for other people, serving people because they're some servant leaders too, man, and it's inspired my own servant leadership as well. So that's definitely a common theme. For the married couple, married guys that's in a group, obviously, the marriage challenges as well from time, need to be what time that their wives are wanting with them, sex, all of that, just the typical marriage challenges. And sometimes it's, the work stuff. It's the man, I got this project. I don't know if I'm finished by the deadline. Just it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Just I'll say just typical life stuff and then just, with kids, discipline and making time for them, wanting to spend more time with them, but not a lot of hours in the day and just being exhausted because after school and work and things like that, you only get, 2 to 3 hours max because you got bedtime and dinner and, versus, we had 8 to 10 hours working and they've
Yeah.
been, had their 8 to 10 hours either at grandparents or daycare or at school and things like that. So it's just not a lot of time post 4 or 5 o'clock to really to kind of pour into people as much as you want at home and things like that. Cause typically, I mean, the average, person is pretty much they want to wind down by 4 or 5 o'clock versus winding up because they just spent their whole
Yeah.
day pouring. Same for our wives and things like that too as well because they're doing the same stuff as well. Like, man, I just want to wind down. So
Right.
I think just all of those things have really, I think, really kind of set the tone for us. Okay, if we're doing these things, we feel like God has called us to do these things, and we're not going to stop doing these things. So how can we make spaces for so we can just unwind? So whether it's monthly hangouts, so we're starting to do better at actually hanging out. Once a month, they're going to get a bite to eat, and things like that. Going to a game. Sometimes we go to Thunder games. One of the guys he got the hookup on sweep tickets, so nobody has to pay anything. We go hang out the Thunder game, where our wives are taking care of the kids, and they're just giving us that time to go and just be men and hang out and do men stuff,
Yeah.
sports, just things like that too as well. So knowing that okay, we're not going to stop doing these things. Okay, how can we create space, within our calendars that allow us just to step outside of those things, even just for a little bit, just so we can go back in with full cups.
Yeah. One of the things that I have written down is why do strong friendships matter for men? And I think you're
Hmm.
you're answering that, just that camaraderie, that brotherhood, that ability to relate to one another, to voice stuff that we can all like connect
Hmm.
with,
Yeah.
and that's just something that helps us grow as men.
Yeah. one
The,
hundred
the, the
percent.
the challenge though is how do you maintain those over a long stretch of time? I feel like sometimes we can do it good
Huh?
for 3 to 6 months or maybe a year, maybe two, but then it just kind of starts getting. dwindles. What do you think that is for us?
Yeah, I don't I'll say for me, I don't look at it as trying to maintain it because we've done life we actually, like, do life together, and there's a genuine care amongst, like, the men and, like, that I just, do life with, that we're not just trying to maintain relationships, we're trying to maximize them. So it's like, man, it's like with the same group of men, like we do a lot of serving together in the community as well that people would never know anything about. So I think and we all just want to see God just maximize his potential in all of us. So I think that makes it easy when you just genuinely believe in someone and you know that someone genuinely cares about you. And for me, I always tell people, man, I know somebody that cares about me when they care about my wife and my kids more than they do me. Like when those guys, if I was trying to do something crazy, I'm like, man, nah, you ain't doing that. If you do, I'm telling Raven, just things like just that type of level of care, and accountability too as well. And like, man, I know something happened to me. I know they got the kids and just things like that, where it's like I really don't feel like it's maintaining. I feel like, man, how can we maximize each other? How can we maximize our lives? And that just seems to be I would say a common thing amongst everyone, man. We just really want God to, you know, get out the most He can out of us, and one of the things I learned from Kids Across America (KAA), was about being third, God first, other second. We're third, and it's like, man, that's just the heart posture of us. Where, man, how can we serve people? How can we love people? Not just what we're doing in the community, but also just how we go about our lives and our marriages and things like that. So that helps when you just know that you're doing life with just amazing people, and it's been tried and true and nothing has stopped. It's like, all right, let's go do it. Let's go serve
Yeah,
and hey, let's go hang out and just things like that. And sometimes like our wives, they check in together too as well, so it's kind of cool to see when you just feel like you don't know, I'm not feel like I'm doing life with those men. I feel like our families are doing life with each other, and just makes it even harder to stop doing it when our kids are connected, our spouses are connected, but also it makes it just that much more enjoyable, and things like that. And for example, some of us we did a friendsgiving over Thanksgiving break, and it's like, man, Raven and I were talking on the way home, like, man, it's crazy how like all of our kids they had another kid there that was like their age. By like their age,
that's
I mean
awesome.
either a year max in between, which is like insane. And they're all boys.
Wow,
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, man, like, we couldn't make this happen. Like we definitely feel like just the bond is definitely God orchestrated for sure. So it really doesn't feel like we're maintaining it. It really felt like, man, we just really just doing life. And just really just want to maximize our marriages, our families, for the kingdom of God for sure.
that's really good, really good. What earlier you said you watch. Let me see. You said you watched your big brothers, and out of that you learned what not to do. Do you still? I think about Paul saying, and I hear some of this already in what you've been saying, but the intentionality of also learning from men. Thinking
Hmm.
about Paul saying, "Hey, follow me as I follow Christ." Do you do you have men that's more so maybe not even in your group text guys, but just how are you intentionally watching other people to learn from them?
Oh yeah, and I got this from my dad. I'll say one of the greatest thing that my dad has done for me in my life. I actually told him this, is that he allowed at an early age when I was a kid, he allowed um, with intentionality, other men to be a part of my life. Whether that's youth pastors, men that he saw value in, like, hey, go hang out with them, and it just allowed me to just go over their house, hang out without them, and things like that to just grow relationships. What that did, it just allowed me to really just be around men, just kind of get nuggets, from people. One of my favorite players ever was Kobe Bryant, but also know that he took parts of his game from so many different people, and dad really just allowed so many men just kind of pour into my life, like yourself. I remember going to KA and I met Stephen Moore at KA. He's still a voice in my life today, and
Yeah,
and Pastor Marvin with Higher Ground and things like that. So there is about a group not a group, but that's probably about, I would say, 6 men who are they're married, they're doing some type of ministry work, so our hearts are aligned for our marriages, for the community, as well as the kingdom of God, and, that I I still to this day that I look up to, and I hit them up every now and then. I talked to one yesterday while I was, get journaling and eating French fries. Called him just to show, give my appreciation. Again, he gets random calls, just me saying thank you the rest of the year, and just things like that. So we talked about 20 minutes while I was eating French fries. So yeah, there's about 6 other men outside of that group are just further along, because I know, like I said, I don't have nothing figured out, but I just want to, maximize my life. And, so yeah, so I intentionally, hey man, can we go do coffee? Can we hang out? Or if they hit me up, hey, absolutely. Like the calendar gets scraped just to make certain things happen,
Yeah,
with certain people. 'Cause I just know that in order for me to maximize my life and fulfill God's purpose and potential in my life, that it's going to require me, getting around, men who are same values, but also have experienced more, but also um, they're just further along, so I have no, hey man, can we do something? Can we hang out?
yeah,
Can we connect? Can we do lunch? Can we do breakfast and things like that? So that's, and I'm just grateful that I have their cell. I just hit them up randomly and text them if I need something immediately, and things like that. But also even just get, advice from parenting to career advice to, just thoughts on Bible passages. So it's not always just some major, like, oh, life
yeah,
altering,
right.
thing. It can be something small or large, and things like that. So I'm just, super grateful that, my dad just kind of practiced and really taught me the importance of, I'm not trying to be your hero. It's gonna take a village, and he really allowed a village to really kind of pour into me, since I was a kid. And it's crazy because, like, I tell people now, like, man, like, we always, talk about, oh man, it takes a village to raise a child. I'm like, man, it takes a village to raise adults. Come on, man. I know I need a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think it
Yeah,
just takes a village to create healthy people. I
yeah.
think it really does. No matter the
No, that
age.
so true. The Bible says, "Don't forsake the assembling together with one another." Right, and
Mhm.
so verse 24, I think, when it talks about let us consider ways to motivate one another to love and
Mhm.
do good. Right, when I think about those verses, it's like, oh yeah, I need people in my
Yeah.
life. Our giftings is to build up the church. Who is the church? The church is us.
Mhm.
So whenever we start thinking about not being connected to community, that's when we get ourselves in trouble, right?
Right.
And so I think in this we're kind of niching it down, but the overall picture is like we need everybody. We
Mhm.
need each other to be
Yeah.
able to grow and thrive in who Christ called us to be as the church.
Yeah, and like I said, I just got to the point. It was probably, I'll probably say, um, I think COVID expedited it, but I was kind of getting there maybe the year before COVID. But my wife, we actually had a miscarriage during COVID, well, 2020. And it was like, man, that old me would have been like, you know what, stay in the house, don't talk to people, don't talk about it, and things like that. And, something, I would say, not something, the Holy Spirit just really walked with us and just gave us a level of trust in God to really lean in on our community, during that season, just allowing other people to serve us. Before, I'm like, nah, ah, nah, we don't need no food. We can cook, we don't need a meal, just things like that. And it was like, in reality, God uses people to serve people. So the times that we were saying, the people, like, prior to, was out of pride, but also out of trusting God, out of the lack of trust in God, as well. Because I think part of me doing that was because I'm just naturally so introverted. So natural me is like, man, ah, don't talk to nobody about nothing. Just, yep, I'm good. Just things like that. And Sometimes, like, depending on who it is, I can't tell everybody everything,
Yeah,
and, when people ask me, like, certain people like, "Man, here's what's going on." Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. And just things like that, and again, it just opens a door for people to serve and speaking to, and things like that, so I'm learning to, okay, although this could be my natural pull or glean to, like, you know what, I enjoy being, by myself. It's how I recharge and things like that, but hey, once I'm recharged, that means I can go out and do stuff. I don't have to stay in
right.
this bunker, and things like that. So I'm learning to manage my own just personal characteristics and just things like that into how, so okay, I am this way, but doesn't mean I have to operate in certain ways and things like that too as well. So I'm learning how to pretty much become a better me despite my love for just being alone, but also because sometimes it's dangerous. And it was
Yeah,
dangerous in my marriage. I'm like, man,
yeah,
I don't want to talk to you about that.
yeah,
I don't trust you with that and just things like that. But also at the end of the day, all of it, for at least for me, was out of pride and, like I said, the lack of trust in God. And it's like it's crazy because, like, the closer I got to Jesus, the more, the deeper my relationship got. It's crazy the closer I got to people. It's crazy. It's like, man, my love for people and my, just closeness and deep level of relationship with people, it grew as I got closer to God, which is like, okay, God, I see what you're doing now. I see the importance of it, and it's crazy because, like, when I'm starting to slip away from people, I'm like, you know,
yeah,
yeah. It's easier for
yeah,
me to spot now and things like that too as well. So, I know that it just, for me personally, it just isn't healthy to live in isolation, and typically when I'm doing so, I'm like, man, it's simply a reflection of kind of I've been pulling away from God as well,
yeah,
because I don't think you can grow closer to God and not grow closer to people. I
yeah.
think it's
That's good.
impossible. You can't grow in God, and, and your love for people don't grow.
Well, how can you fulfill the mission to go out and make disciples if you're not
Yeah,
in fellowship with people? You know,
100%.
and that discipleship, reaching people, is like that's not just believers. That's like, how do you make this? It says, how do you make disciples, right? And
Right.
so that's dealing with hard people. I always struggle with when we talk about trusting people when I know what the Bible says about people's hearts. And
Hmm.
so it's like, can you really ever trust? I mean, as much as we talk about it, but we know that people's hearts are deceitful and broken. And
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, well,
yep.
I know who I'm dealing with, even if it seems the prettiest at times. I understand who I'm dealing with, which
Yeah.
allows for me to be able to go deeper with, because I don't have any of those expectations
Mhm.
for us that we sometimes can put on each other. I mean, I want the best for everybody. I want us all to grow. And out of that, there should be some trust in that. But it's at the same time, it's like, I know Daniel needed a savior just like everybody else.
Yep, yep, yep,
And I'm
and I think
marrying
it's
somebody who needed a savior. So,
yeah.
uh, yeah, nobody is not in need of a savior. So,
No, I mean, at the end of at
talking
the end
about you, oh, go ahead.
no, I was about to say, just at the end of the day, man, we all need love, and we all need relationships. I mean, that is a common denominator amongst all groups of people, no matter the background or anything, where they from or anything, race, gender, nothing. We all need love, and we all need people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Tell me a little bit before we get a couple more questions. Just talk about your journaling process. Like, is that just you just sitting down with a journal and just writing your thoughts? No, nothing structured. You just writing or thinking through, processing things.
Yes, I'll say it varies. I have sometimes I journal. It's literally what's in my head. It goes on paper as it's in my head. There is no, okay, here's one, we're gonna talk about this, so it's really okay. What am I feeling? So that's definitely sometimes when it's literally okay, what am I feeling in the moment, and things like that. And typically, when I'm journaling on, okay, what am I feeling? Those pages of that journal session be about 3, 4 pages. Because just thoughts and just feelings right there in the moment and things like that of what I'm just processing. And other times on journal, it's more so from a gratitude standpoint, where I list 5 things that I'm just thankful for, at that moment. And I do 5 things that I'm thankful for, and then 3 people that made me smile that day, or made me feel good, that show kindness and things like that. So that's more so That's another thing, another way that I journal as well. The other one be just more so aspirations for the future, and where I just kind of go through that process of just kind of, man, where do I want to go 9 months from now? Where I want things to be. So that's more so, more like the three different types of journaling, and I'll say even in them, okay, what am I feeling and things like that. I also include, okay, what is God telling me? And what is God speaking to me in the moment? So that's why typically those are going to be longer journaling sessions. That for me, that most likely that session is going to be midday, and my gratitude journal sessions most likely is going to be first thing in the morning or end of day, because typically those are shorter or shorter times. And then as far as like the aspirations journal, typically I'm probably doing those either once a month or once a quarter, so they're not as frequent.
Gotcha. Um, yeah. Do you ever do digital or is it all pen and paper?
All pen and paper. It's crazy because
Okay.
like sometimes I wish it was digital. I wish it was just on my phone, but it's just something like something about writing, putting that pen to paper.
Yeah.
But I'll say something like, "Man, what is that letter? What did I write here?" I'll be
Yeah.
misspelling stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't get the red squigglies under the
Yeah.
word.
On your
Uh,
own handwriting. I'm the same way. I'm
exactly.
the
But I,
same
I
way.
love handwriting. I really do. I really do. So most of the time, not most of the time. It's pretty much all handwritten journals, and there are three different journals. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I do digital and I do paper to pen. So I have journals just in different spots that I may go and
Mhm.
sit at, and I'll do it that way, but also do it digital. And so I have this thing called I got it. I can't remember the book, but it's called the Daily Page, and you just write
Okay.
down whatever's
Yeah.
whatever. And so I try to do that every morning when I wake up, just to start
Got
out
it.
your day,
Okay.
just get whatever's off your mind or whatever.
Yeah.
And then also I'm a big believer in, as I learn more from other people, not something I just saw, like when you block out your thinking time, like
Mm,
making that space just to think, like you can't properly think without pen and paper, without something to help process those moments of being intentional with just your thinking time. So
yeah.
are you a person that blocks out time just for space to think, or
Oh man, Raven to tell you Sunday. She knows
okay.
Sunday. That's his thing time. It's got to a point where it don't even go on the calendar anymore. It used to have to go on the calendar. It don't go on the calendar anymore. And I think I'm like uh, gone like so accustomed to it that it used to be like an hour or so. Now with me, which sometimes I can probably get what I need to get accomplished and done, and including the journal within 30 minutes or so. But that's pretty much at least 30. Sometimes it's as long as 2 hours, just due to the type of week, or there's a lot to journal, or just processing a lot and things like that. So typically, Sundays is my day to really kind of get in that think time, as well as I use part of it to kind of prepare for the week as well. So yeah, I love my theme time. I love it. So
That's
it
good.
was like it was unnatural at first. I'm like, oh man, like I look forward to it now. I really do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do it at home. Sometimes I just go to a coffee shop and take my headphones, put on some Beethoven, and and get after it. So it's
Yeah.
I'm definitely one of those where I take my laptop and journal, to different places around the city. Most
Yeah.
likely I'm doing think time
Yeah.
if it's a
Yeah.
Sunday for sure. So
Yeah. That's good. Last question. What questions should you be asking yourself for the men listening to this? Like, what are some questions you're asking yourself or you think men should be asking themselves?
am I around the right man? I think that's a good one. Because I think if you aren't, I think it's imperative to be around men who wants the best out. They want you to get your best out of life, to get the most out of life without wanting anything in return. They just want to see you win. They want to see your family win. So I think that's absolute critical, but also typically those people, they're gonna be less likely to leave you. They're you bec It's not gonna be a transactional relationship. It's not gonna be people who would you tell them something you're struggling with, and they're gonna, all right, you struggling now, I'm out. I'm out. You got to be perfect or anything like that. They'll be able to, they're more accepting and things like that. But also they're gonna be, hey man, I'm not in this just for me. Like, how can I help you? Just things like that too as well. And it just becomes a reciprocity, in the relationship too as well. So I would definitely say just being intentional around good quality men. And they don't have to be a dad, but if you are a dad, it's helpful that they are dad, because y'all combine up with parenting and things like that. If it's marriage, they're married, great. Don't necessarily have to be married, but um, if they're married, talk about marriage also be they'll be a topic and just things like that too as well. So I would say just being around like-minded men who want the most out of life, but also just care about you just to care about you. Not I I only want Hetty, because I know he's gonna do X, Y, and Z for me. That's the only reason
Yeah.
why I want him around me, and just things like that. But also people that were once with me, how can I pour into you? How can I give versus just having their hand out or man, I'm gonna do this, but also manipulate because I want this on the back end. Just different things like that, which happens in relationships is they're very transactional, and that's okay. Some relationships they're meant to be transactional. And then some relationships they're just meant to be relational. So I think, you need to be intentional on which relationships, but also spend time and really just identifying which is which. Because if you don't identify if it's relational or transactional, you can be hurt. And things like that. So I think, if it is transactional, just call a spade a spade. You can still have a relationship with them and do life, but
Yeah.
don't be hurt because it's transactional, and I think there's some relationships that are meant to be transactional. We need those type of relationships as well. But for, those deeper level relationships, you definitely want to have some like-minded people with very similar values that just wants to see you win and see God move in your life. That's imperative. Because you'll want to share more with those people. It's going to be easier to be vulnerable, transparent with them. There's going to be a lot of just encouragement and inspiration to keep on and things like that. Because I mean, it's for some reason, if you're on a road trip and you stranded, like man, like I'm by myself in the middle of nowhere. But if you're on a you're in a car and the tire blow out and you got 4 people with you, like all right, man, let's you know there'll be some karaoke. And
Yeah.
that trip is going to be a lot more enjoyable, right? And in that desert season, it's going to be a lot more. Although you don't want to be there, it's going to be a lot more bearable because you got somebody to bear it with you, versus doing it alone and things like that. So there's just so much good with not doing it alone. And not trying to do it alone. When you try to do it alone, you intentionally, all right, I don't need nobody. So it's really kind of just wasting time at that point because we do need people.
Yeah. No, that's so good, man. Daniel, I appreciate you, man.
Man, I
Th-
appreciate you, man. I appreciate
Thank
you
you
for
for this
sure.
time. Letting me learn from you. And again, I hope out of this I can keep better serving men and that vision of better men, better families, better
Mhm.
communities. I know it starts with us locking arms and learning from each other. So
It takes a village.
it takes a village. It
Yeah.
takes a village. It takes a village. Hey, thank you all again for hitting that play button for another episode of Learning from Men podcast. I'm on a mission to learn from men so I can better serve men. Go win.